for more information. We're going to
With
turn
pleasure. Thank you.
We're going to turn now to Renata Ávila, who is the CEO of the Open Knowledge Foundation. Renata has a wealth of experience from around the globe on digital rights issues, and is someone I've looked up to for many years, and is going to tell us now all about turning open data into open knowledge. Renata, please take it away. I'm looking forward to hearing from you.
Okay, here we go. Here we go. Sorry, I was so very excited about this opportunity to talk to you. First of all, thank you so much for the to the people behind this effort. It has been an amazing organization and lots of work and dedication to each and every person behind the team of Open Data Days. My name is Renata Ávila, as Jennifer said, and I'm the new CEO of Open Knowledge Foundation. And I want to bring a little bit like a more citizen activist perspective to the table and make a reflection. I started working on digital. I'm Guatemalan, and as you might know, my country is very small. Still, like most of the people are not connected to the internet, but even back then, we were very enthusiastic about the promises that the digital revolution will bring and the access to what we said back then, knowledge. And as we move to after the first decade of the century, we move to the second, and we start talking less and less about knowledge. And we started talking more and more and more about data, data, data. If we were clapping every time that we mentioned data in this Open Data Day, we would be like, it would be like a round of applauses every minute. And the reflection that I want to bring to you today is that we should bring the knowledge perspective back into the scene, and we should talk more about knowledge when talking about data. And as I said, the Open Knowledge Foundation it has been around. We are approaching our second decade anniversary, and our mission is to create a more open world, a world where non-personal information is open, free for everyone to use, build on, and share. And creators and innovators are fairly recognized and rewarded. In this information and data, we want to bring back to the center the idea of knowledge, because data is not knowledge. It needs more to become knowledge. And that's what I want to talk about today. And I also want to bring at the table a reflection on new forms of extractivism that can be like a result of, even if open, extractive data practices where communities offer and volunteer or even are not asked for their data. The data is in nice data sets at the European Union, the data servers, but there's no relationship between the people those data sets belong to, like the people, like me. And I'm not talking only about personal information. We know that for Europeans, there's a regulation around that. But if we talk about data sets, very precious data sets about natural resources, biodiversity, the environment, and people whose lives could be affected for good or for bad around data sets, that's what I'm talking about when I'm discussing this. And the important thing in the work that I'm starting to do and the seeing that I'm witnessing is that the open data community everywhere in the world tends to be like a very elite, very sophisticated, very high, with a high literacy, and very, very, very many times disconnected from the programs on the ground. And that leaves the rest of the people, most of the people, 99% of the people are passive the skill users, only generating data without taking full advantage of the benefits of that. Of course, We have seen today many very interesting and valuable programs on data literacy, but that's not the participatory approach that I'm going to present and challenge today. The ideas I am exploring and that with my team we want to translate into a reality is how can we be participants? How can any person be participants, be a active participant, and not only a data generator when we discuss this open data revolution and this all the potential it has to solve people problems, the concrete problems in people's lives. And the problem is that all the frame and all the activities around citizens that we have done in recent times have been like with a strong emphasis on privacy and data protection and trying to push back and trying to reduce the amount of data that is extracted from our personal activities and the products that return to us as tools of surveillance and control. But we have been very passive, let's say, at exploring what's there for citizens to collaborate in. At the beginning of the century, we started like we know well that we started in solid ground with things like Wikipedia and the free software movement that engaged so many people. But somehow, as the complexity of these technologies moved, and as many were connected to basically a commercial internet of locked innovation, not open innovation, we have lost this. So the other dimension that we need to understand is that technology is politics and that data is also political. And the knowledge around, the curation decisions even, when an entity like the World Bank or the EU decides to invest a lot of money in producing, curating, and promoting data sets around specific topics, is often not participatory. It's often citizens that might be impacted by these projects that maybe in a very positive way are left at like a post hackathon where they might play with the data sets that have been generated but not part of the key political decisions in many cases especially outside the EU on this. So, and the other is that we see today data and the knowledge can be generated out of this data as power, but we are at the powerless end. When we have economically powerful actors concentrating most of the data power, we think, okay, how can we bring this back, and how can we facilitate a generative ecosystem so people can transform data into knowledge and not knowledge into power and transform their lives. So the other thing that I have seen citizens and communities struggling with is the transformation on how we understand the digital sphere. As many people are connected to the internet, for many of them, all their digital sphere is on a telephone and is concentrated in a device that is not enabling them to create, is not enabling them to even realize even remotely the power of data. And it is also an architecture that is heavily mediated and controlled by personalization, geolocation, and other factors. So when to think about, to dream about a generative ecosystem where open data is transformed into knowledge and knowledge is transformed into something that transforms people's lives, we need to also consider today to what are we connected to, the way we connect and the way we search and gather information to transform the data into something else. And basically the formula that we are trying to test at the Open Knowledge Foundation has 3 layers. One is of skills and competencies that goes beyond the a simple surface of basic literacy. That is what we have seen in many of the basic training programs, because we think that the complexity of things, even if the basic data literacy program is a must, and it must be like, taught and across the education system since you are a little girl, we understand that the complexities are like more like interconnected with other disciplines. It's not only not only learning about data for the sake of data, but understanding the intersections with sectors like justice, like access to health, and exercise of fundamental rights. We are doing that through the School of Data. But we are also trying to teach people about the positive side of it and the potential it has to create and improve lives. And basically what we are like providing is the basic enablers for many people all over the world to have not only a critical vision on data, but also a positive vision oriented to creation. Sorry, the second layer is technical tools closer to the people, because once you get the citizens very engaged and enthusiastic about data, it is when imagine someone in a public administration is like, oh, these brilliant data sets just released may help us get a more efficient hospital appointment system, or a more efficient a more inclusive system to allocate benefits to our cultural programs. Then you find that even with the all goodwill of generating good data sets, there's many frictions. The public administration might make a lot of investment on it, and it like the person with the initiative with the plan might go back and say like, okay, the data sets are there, but I cannot use it because many enablers need to happen before. So we are trying to produce open source, community-led tools to like CCAN and the frictionless data program that would enable any entity to use data sets to put the open data to service to the people and to institutions and to different like social and citizen-driven causes. And the third pillar is the sustainability angle. Because this open data ecosystem that needs to be connected with the open knowledge ecosystem cannot be, it's expensive. It's expensive to maintain more than to just get people excited about the first moment when they interact with data. And we need to seed and to fund and to nurture a system of digital social innovation that puts open knowledge and open data at its core. And for that, a brilliant example was just released a couple of days ago, is the Tech Sovereign Fund, which would enable, bring back, give back to the community a little bit of buying time and buying, so the projects do not just go out and then fade away because of lack of sustainability. Last but not least, I think that we need to make this even more exciting for everybody in society. We need to create a virtuous circle of empower citizens, local impact, and collaboration. So using open data as the magic ingredient, but thinking of generating knowledge, so to generate and inspire local and global change. And that's it.
Thank you very much, Renata. I really enjoyed that. It was a key point that we want to raise in these days, that data is not necessarily knowledge. I have a question for you just regarding metadata and its level of value in turning data into knowledge. Can you talk a little bit about whether that's treated differently? Should it be treated differently?
Like that's precisely what the frictionless data project is trying to achieve. There's a lot of standards that are not. Basically, we are like many institutions produce the data sets in a messy way. And because it's not standardized, it's not, and things like metadata data about the data are not taken into consideration when designing all of this. it blocks, for example, reproducible research. It impedes others to build. It is not a healthy building block. It's like you have Legos incompatible with each other. So it's not only a lot of the value is in the science metadata or in the social metadata is attached to a data set. So what we are trying to do is taking organizations step by step and providing the tools, but also the technical standards that they need to produce healthy data sets and to avoid and to basically provide the building blocks that will enable that will multiply the benefits that a data set could have.
Well, and then finally, how important is it that we have for society representation when it comes to this standard setting to increase inclusivity? As you mentioned, it's not simply enough to be a passive user. What sort of involvement do we need people in at the creation stage for data sets?
We are exploring that, and we will have a lot more to share next year for the Open Data Days. But data governance systems, we always thought of them as legal, legal and technical, and legal policy and technical. Maybe if it was broad vision on that, it has to be more than that. Communities need to understand not only about personal use of personal data and sensitive data. They need to understand the bigger picture of data of things around them and the possibilities of tomorrow. It is like, when you ask a community, can I build a building here? What do you think about it, and how it will shape your surroundings? Exactly the same. When we think about the data commons pool of your city data. What about asking the community about it? What about asking the community around national park where you are doing a great biodiversity data project? What do you think about it? How to improve the data sets? What I'm missing from this data set? I think that more community involvement will only lead to, data sets connected to the people and connected to local knowledges, which will in exchange be something that you don't need to be a computer scientist to be a part of this data revolution. And there's a lot of meaning in that, but there's also a lot of correctors of the way we think of technology. And we think that the derivative products from those data sets in a completely different way. I think they will revolution the architecture of technology that we have today.